It's upgrade day. It's your girl Lexi, the daughter of your boy Rosie, and today is upgrade day. Your boy has been bringing you videos non-stop every Monday and every Wednesday, and he's been doing it on a raggedy laptop, but today we are here to fix that problem. It's upgrade day. So today you will be seeing the behind the scenes guy, or technical guy, the guy with the means to build this PC, and he will be telling you all the parts going into this case and physically putting it together.
Hey everybody, I'm Quentin. Apparently my wife forgot my name. I am the designated white man of this and that. The guy behind the scenes and the technical expert? I don't know. But today I will be building Rosie a new computer to upgrade him from that paperweight he uses to get on the interwebs. So starting off, we have the case. It is a Deepcool D-Shield V2. In it, we're placing an AB350 Gaming 3 motherboard from Gigabyte. Fun. Powering it, Seasonic 80 Plus, bronze rated 620 watt. For the video, we're running a Radeon RX 580. Now, we're putting in a Hyper 212 Black Edition from Cooler Master to cool our CPU. And for that, AMD Ryzen 7 1700X. Fun. For the memory, a 1TB SSD. For the RAM, it's going to be Corsair. Nice and fun. What did we get? DDR4, 16 gigs of RAM. All kind of fast, and because it's a little bit of dinosaur, I'm going to go ahead and throw in a CD drive. I'll see you at the workbench.
Alright, so now we're going to be getting the motherboard ready. Most important part, your CPU. Now, it comes in this little clamshell. It's nice and shiny and new. Don't touch anything but the edges. Right from the edges, it's clamshell. Nobody needs that. So, important parts of the CPU. The actual CPU on top. You'll be placing a thermal compound up here. Whenever we put the fan on, that's going to help heat transfer from the CPU, which gets hot, to the base of the fan and into the radiator portion of it. Dissipate the heat, keeps everything running very copacetic. Then you have your pin connectors on the bottom. Do your best, don't touch them. You may break them. You break it, you're buying a new one. Not really cheap. Now, important portion of the CPU. Don't know if you can see it, but let's see where we at. Okay, so you have your corners, and then you have your different corner. This one's painted white. That's going to be your designation for the rotation of it. What you're going to want to do is match up that corner with a corner on your socket. That one is over here. You put it in right the first time, or you might break it. Don't do that. So first off, to release the socket is this little lever. You're going to gently depress down and to the side. Then you lift it up and it will slide ever so slightly. It does not take much, I promise. Then you're going to correctly position your CPU and gently place it in the socket. Make sure you're correctly on there and it will drop in like nothing. It takes zero force. The weight of the chip itself will drop into place. You can go ahead and make sure it doesn't slide around, make sure it's in the right socket. If it moves at all, it's wrong. Take your lever, depress it gently, does not take much. Place it back under the latch, and it's locked in place. Hard part's done. Now, next, we're going to be placing on our Hyper 212 cooler. All right, so did the unthinkable and read the instruction manual. Ooh. All right, so very important part of building a computer is you need 2 tools. Always 2 tools. Start off a Phillips head screwdriver. Can do basically everything you want to do. Doesn't need to be fancy, just something. And a pair of needle nose pliers or tweezers in case you drop one of them little tiny screws and you don't feel like taking the entire computer apart to find it. So, first off, Cooler Master Hyper 212 Black Edition. Got a different configuration based on if you're putting it on an AMD chipset or an Intel chipset. We're going with the AM4 socket with our Ryzen. So, let's get to it. First off, with this section, we've got a little clip here. Keeps the fan on. Just pops right off. No biggie. Set that to the side. And, 2 of them. Alright, so, fan's off. We have just the radiator portion. Good times. So, we're going to set that to the side. And we do not need these mounting brackets here. So, we're just going to go ahead and take those off. Phillips head screwdriver. Phillips head screws. Nice and easy. Nothing on here should be too tight. They should all come off very easily. Alright, like nothing. When you're doing this, make sure not to put too much pressure down. Don't want to accidentally crack the motherboard and then have to buy a new one. So from there, you have these spacers here. There is a back plate already that comes with the motherboard. So I'll go ahead and pull that out. So this right here. Some motherboards come with a stock, or some chips come with a stock cooler on. And we're just not going to use that because we got something better. So from there, I've already pulled aside everything we're going to need for our AMD setup. We're going to replace the old backplate with this one that came with our Cooler Master. So if you have one of these and you're doing an AM4 chipset, I'll go ahead and walk you through this. If not, feel free to fast forward to the next section. Alright, so we're going to be placing this upside down, taking the square headed screws, place them in the horizontal slots. They will only fit one way so that they fit in the slot themselves. And we will be taking the wide clips, placing the closed end on the bottom side, which I have upside down. And when we put that on, that will hold these square-headed screws in place, and that will act as a mounting point for our fan. So we'll be doing that for all 4 sides. Alright, now that that's complete, we're going to go ahead and put it on the bottom of our motherboard. Well, let's make sure these screws can shift one way or the other. I'm going to try and set them at their widest points. I believe that's where it's going to fit. We will then lift our motherboard, make sure our screws are in the correct spots, and gently place it back onto our work surface, which is just the box the motherboard came in. Just gives a good elevated work surface. Keep everything nice and together. So from there, we will be preparing to place our radiator on there. And shift this over. And from there, we will be attaching the 2 straight brackets. It comes with a straight set and a slightly curved set. That'll be for the Intel. So it's going to come with these little tiny screws. Try not to lose those. It only comes with 2 of them. And from there, you're going to have 2 different sides. A more straight side that's got 2 little indents. We're going to be placing that upside down where the screws are pointed back up towards us and attaching with that. We'll place our screw in the hole, match up our bracket, hold it, and screw it. You don't want to crank down on it, but make it a good secure. See where we're at. There we go. All right, that'll do for that. From here, we can reattach the fan. We had to pull it off so that we had room to attach these and the fan wouldn't get in the way of my fat fingers. So the fan came attached. It was in a push mode, which pushed air directly into the radiator portion. I prefer pull. So on a fan, you'll have your blades curved a certain direction and they will always turn towards the tips. So I'm just going to go ahead and configure that properly. Doing this way will shoot it downward. And if we flip it over, because the way the blades are curved, it will now pull it upwards. So I'll be putting this side on the outside of my setup and it will pull air through the radiator in the fan and then shoot out the back. Go ahead and set this in these little slots. Get it nice and lined up. And I will then attach the little braces that came with it. The hooks will go into the screw slots on the fan and then wrap around the first ledge of the radiator. All right, a little difficult. Little braces don't want to act right, but now we've got in. Next, we will have spacers for these 4 screws protruding through the motherboard. And I have these. They're fairly large, comparable to the ones located in the case. So we're just taking them, screw them in. Nothing too crazy, just finger tight. Not trying to break anything. Just want to get them seated for now. All right, not too bad. Now this came with a little socket that fits the spacers. You can use a Phillips or flathead screwdriver to spin it. So place on one of the spacers, use our Phillips head screwdriver, and just finger tight. We're not trying to crack anything. Just want to make sure they are secure and the back plate is stable. Now we put on our fan. So first off, we're going to be applying thermal compound to the heat spreader on the top of the Ryzen chip. And again, came with the Cooler Master Hybrid 212 Black. There's different ways to do it depending upon the size of the chip. Some Intel chips are smaller, some AMD chips are larger. I generally go with placing a pea-sized amount in the center, and once you screw in the fan, the pressure will cause the thermal compound to spread and get a decent coverage. And that's it. That's all you need. But just don't glob it on. And then it starts spreading. Hit your motherboard. You can short circuit, ruin everything. Oh, good. So, this is our transfer plate. It's nice and shiny. Hadn't ever been used yet. Ooh. So, we need to make sure we position it where our fan is going to pull air from the case across the radiator, out the fan into the exhaust. This is our I/O panel, so we want to make sure this is where the back of our case is going to be. This is where the exhaust is going to be. We want the fan pulling air over here. So from there, we will place our fan directly on top of the screws. And make sure once you get it there, don't really slide it around too much. And you're moving that thermal compound. You gotta clean it. Well, you gotta get some alcohol, some rubbing alcohol, spread it out, dry it out, and start over. Try and get this in. Now with this one, it's some screws located on some springs to give it tension. You want to be screwing in Okay, so small error. I decided to place the fan on the radiator before I screwed on and mounted it. Didn't have room for the screwdriver to get in. It happens. So I've put it on here. It's not fully tightened on. When you tighten these on, you want to go opposites to get even distribution. So I'll go from there, screw them in all a little at a time, and just make some rotations. We get even pressure. We don't get any leakage. All right. CPU cooler is secured. We'll be right back. All right, so now that we have the fan properly mounted, we're gonna go ahead and plug it up to the motherboard. Now it did come with this little converter. So plug one in, and the other one goes into the motherboard if you need it. There we go, fantastic. It's gonna be right over here. All of your little plugs are labeled. It's printed on the motherboard. What we were looking for was CPU fan. So these are going to attach. You can only attach them one way. They have some little ridges on one side. And let me go ahead and put this where you can properly see it. So what we're gonna do is be placing the fan cable right here. Slipping that in. Takes a little bit of pressure. Don't bend it. You break one of the prongs, things don't work properly. And that's in. No problem. Next, we will be placing in the RAM. What we have here is some Corsair Vengeance LPX DDR4. We have 2 sticks of 8, which is going to equal up to 16 gigs of RAM. With this, we have 4 RAM slots. They are color-coded red and black. Also printed on the motherboard is slot numbers, so you have slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, and slot 4. What you're going to want to do is, if you're only using 1 stick of RAM, you put it in slot 1. 2 sticks of RAM, color code them. So match the colors. So it's going to be 1 and 2. If you use 3, 1, 2, and 3, 4, you just fill up all 4. No problem. Since we're only using 2, we'll be placing them in these red slots, which are denoted as slot 1 and slot 2. It's very simple. They're DDR4 RAM. If you get a hold of something older, you don't know if it works. Whenever they make the RAM, they have a slot in the middle. And based on which level of RAM it is, the slot will be placed different spots. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't work. So all we're gonna do is make sure our slots are open. It's these little tabs that open and then close. So we will go ahead and open both. All you do is just press down on them. Open both of our red ones, and then we will place our RAM in. All we're gonna do is take it, match the slot, make sure it's on the correct side because they're slightly offset. You place them directly into the slot. Place a finger on both sides and press firmly. And they will close by themselves. That's the scary part because I've been telling you don't crack the board. This is one of the exceptions where you can go ahead and use some force. It's nothing too crazy. Make sure your sticks are turned the same way. Press down until you hear the audible click. And that's our RAM. This is our case. Deepcool D-Shield V2. Nice and bare. So, right here, we'll talk about some very important things. Cable management. Now, with this one, it comes with a side panel with a see-through portion. So we want to try and make it look as nice as possible. So for that, we go with easy cable management. Within the case, you have lots of slots. All the cables right here are tied to the front panel. We have a couple USBs, audio, input jacks, output jacks, power switch, reset switch, and your LEDs. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these cables and feed it through one of the slots here in the back. And what will happen is it'll come out here just on the inside of the slit, and we can then feed them further in close enough to where they can pop in this side, pop out on top of the motherboard, and plug in easily. Makes it look nice and clean. So let's get started with that. First thing I'll do is I will take all of my cables and feed them through the slot. Let's see. As I'm going to have to do a single set of cables at a time because I have big hands. Small hands would be nice, but this is what I have to work with. Now each case is going to be different in its setup, where the slots are located. So the best thing to do is force all the cables to the back, first chance you get, and then after you place your motherboard in and secure it, then you can go ahead and pull out individual cables from the back and put them nice, neat. Make it look good, show it off. So now we have all of our wires fed out from our slots right under this lid. So for now, all we're gonna do is leave them hanging. We're not gonna put them in anywhere.
Next, we're going to go ahead and install the motherboard, and from there, we'll start plugging everything in. See you in a minute. Alright, so here we have the case. We'll be preparing to install our motherboard. First thing we're going to do is take off this exhaust fan. When we install the motherboard, we'll have to insert some things into the I/O shield, so we want to make sure we put that in there correctly and don't mess anything up. On the back side of the case, there are 4 screws. Just take those out. Easy peasy. Ta-da! Set that to the side. Don't lose your screws. Doesn't come with no more. Alright, so now we will be taking our motherboard, which we've already installed our CPU cooler, and our RAM sticks. We're going to carefully place it in the case. We'll be lining up those holes with the spacers or risers that I pointed out earlier, and we're going to be slowly placing the board into the I/O shield slots. We're going to check the sides. We want to make sure everything fits properly. If not, now's the time to figure it out. Now that we have installed into the I/O shield, your case will come with a bag of screws. Lots of different screws, spares, extras, some case screws, thumb screws, fan screws, anything you might need. What I went and did is counted out my holes. I had 7 spots where I need to secure the motherboard to the case, and it's going to be these little flat-headed looking screws. Those are going to be the ones you want to use. So I'm going to go ahead and install that, get this nice and secure. Alrighty, so we've installed our motherboard, got it nice and secure. We're going to go ahead and put this fan back on. We're going to make sure we properly rotate it the orientation we want. I'm going to go ahead and make this an exhaust, so I want it pulling air from inside the case and pushing it out of the rear. So I'm going to go ahead and check my fan blades, see which way it's going to go, and mount it as such. Now we want to make sure we orient the cable closest to where we are going to plug it into the motherboard. So we locate our plug for this one. It's going to be here, right underneath our CPU cooler. So we want to orient our fan to take up as much slack as possible without putting a strain on it. And we can always use a twist tie to make it look nice and pretty, which we may end up doing so that we can hide it in this little top corner as close to the motherboard as possible. So from there, check our range. Here, be tying it up there. We orient it on the rear corner. That will give us plenty of room to plug into it and then move some excess out the way. So I think that's what we're going to be doing. So, okay. Lay this cable in there, going underneath it, and let's screw this thing in. Alright, that's there. We'll go ahead and take this cable, we're going to plug it in. Again, all of these cables have ridges on one side to let you know the orientation of the plug. Go ahead and plug that in. A little bit of pressure, make sure it's secure. We're good. So now I'm going to go ahead and take this excess cable and feed it underneath and out of a rear section, which I will then secure in a moment. And there you go, motherboard installed. Next thing we'll be doing is installing the video card. Be right back. Alright, this is it. A Sapphire Pulse Radeon RX 580. Good times. Nice and shiny, fresh out the packaging. Alright, so what we're going to be doing is installing this into our PCIe slot. And to do that, we need to remove one of these back panels. Make room for it. So again, we pull out our handy dandy Phillips head screwdriver. Go from there. Let's see, this is a thumb screw. Okay. Currently, we're removing a plate over top these expansion slots that secures it and makes sure that they cannot come loose. We'll be using that later. Now, we can go ahead and start removing some things. Now these, however, look like they are punch outs, which means we get to break something on purpose. So that's good. That's some fun. So what we're going to do first is we're going to position our RX 580 in the PCI slot that we want, just so we know exactly which part to break before we break it. Because these you cannot replace. You'd have to get some covers and it just looks bad. We're going to make sure this lines up. I'm not going to be able to fit it in the slot yet, but we're going to line it up. So this one's taking up 2 slots. So now we know exactly what we're breaking. Top slot is removable. So that's good. If you broke the wrong slot, you can go ahead and take this removable one and fill in the gaps. Try not to lose a little screw. And it will just pop out. It's got these little clips on the bottom. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a little hook attachment that goes and lips over the case. Now we will be breaking the second one. As cleanly as we possibly can. To make room for our nice graphics card. And if you feel like you're going to do something and damage your motherboard, go ahead and take the time, remove your motherboard, do all this safely, because it's a lot better to take the time to do it carefully than to ruin a lot of money. We're just going to go ahead and bend this back and forth until it snaps. Ta-da! Nice, broken, clean. We're going to go ahead and break our second slot. Slot number 2, broken. All right. This should go in nice and smooth. That hand in there. Put my slots in. And apply a little pressure. You hear the click. It's in. Now from there, let's just line up your holes, attach some screws right here on the back end, and there you go. All right. And since we don't need the very top slot, we will go ahead and replace our cover. Alright, since we don't have anything else going into the expansion slots, we'll go ahead and replace this shield and call that a day. Ease it in, slowly back and forth, get that in place. There we go, there's our shield. We'll go ahead and reattach that.
That'll keep our screws nice and secure. They won't accidentally come loose. Nothing should be shifting around. Tighten that by hand. All right, that's in. Now, this will be our power connector, and we'll get to that whenever we get a hold of our power supply. So, I'll see you in a minute. All right, so now a couple of the final pieces. We have a 1 terabyte SSD solid state drive. It's like the old HDD hard drive disk, except less prone to fail because there's no moving parts. It's fantastic. And his CD drive, because why not? So to get started, first off we're going to install the CD drive. To do that, we're going to have to remove the front of this case. Most cases are fairly simple once you figure out exactly how to pull it off. This one is you have to give it a firm yank from the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Feels like you're going to break it, but you're not, I promise. This is the location where you're going to be placing our CD drive. Now that correlates on the front panel. This can be knocked out. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that right now and then install our CD drive. We're going to remove this front plate here so that we can fit it. Seems like there's one more on the opposite side. Go ahead and take care of that. Here. Let's see what we're looking at. That would be this one right here. Take that one out. And ta-da, plate removed. Okay, so now that we have the plate removed, we're going to go ahead and install our CD drive. Just going to take it, make sure you have it facing the correct direction, and, well, pull out this plate, because why not? It's just like on the rear when we installed the video card. It is simply a punch out. So we'll go ahead and bend it until it snaps. All right, sides. We'll just play with it back and forth until it comes off. Ta-da! Now, let's go ahead and insert our CD drive. Nice and easy. Get our plate back. We've gotten everything out of the way. We need to go ahead and reinstall the plate. So now, take our CD drive, slide it in, nice and easy. It's going to get to a point, and you see these slots over here. We have some holes and then one long slot. What we're going to do is we're going to try and line up our holes. There's some holes on the side, on the front and the back, on both sides. You just line that up to wherever it needs to be. Currently we don't know exactly how far back we need to be, so we will remove the front plate from the face. Alright, so we've gone ahead and pulled out the little front plate. Now we can see exactly how far in we need to go. And yes, I know I could have slid the CD drive in after doing this. However, doing it this way allows me to better manage the cables around. Hopefully, I can get them just right, or I don't have to play with them anymore around this drive. Set the front. Make sure all my cables are out of the way. And just go ahead and pop it back in. Alright, check the seams. Make sure it's attached all the way around. Fantastic. Now from there, we're going to go ahead and make this flush with the front. So I'll go from behind, push it forward, make it flush, and then I will secure it. Found a good flush spot. I've identified the screw holes in particular slots. And now I will go ahead and secure it to the bracket. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. Take just a moment, and then we will proceed. So now that the CD drive is now secure, we're going to go ahead and install the 1 terabyte SSD. Now, for this case, we have some mounting brackets in the back. See over here? You can do that normally if you had a large hard drive. Go ahead and place it in one of these bays here, but we don't have to deal with that. We can make ours nice, clean, out of the way. So, first off, my wife decided we're going to put it in the lower slot. So, yay. Now, these are going to have 4 screw holes on the back. They also have some on the side. So, we're going to mount it flat against it, screw holes through the back. That way it'll sit nice and flat against the back of the case. Alright, so to power this monstrosity, we've chosen to go with a Seasonic 80 plus bronze rated 620 watt power supply. We chose to go with a fully modular design, which means there are no cables attached. There's a lot of slots, but no cables forcing you to have a big bulky mess in the way gathering dust. So, comes with an assortment of cables and this nice little bag. Looks great. You can keep all your extras, keep spares. If you do multiple builds, you can have a place for all your stuff. Now, let's put it in. First thing we're going to do, take our power supply, move some cables out of the way. We're going to go ahead and screw it in. So, fan is going to be the exhaust. On this case, there is a port on the bottom. We're going to go ahead and flip the whole thing upside down. Seems a little funny, but that's how they are. Place it in. It should sit squarely on the bottom. Line up all your holes and get ready to screw it in.
Ta-da! Cable management complete.
So, now that I'm done building this computer, it is time to put on Windows. It is time to update our graphics card and all that other good stuff before we surprise your boy Rosie with this computer that I just built.
It's fine.
Hey, what's that?
That's the computer.
It's done? Awesome. Oh, I can't wait. Is it heavy as y'all?
It's a little lighter.
Oh, that ain't bad. That's not bad.
Nope.
My new baby.
Yeah, you got a little port. See everything going on?
Awesome. Well, it's ready to set up. I'm going to move my that shredder, put it right underneath my desk, start plugging stuff up.
That'll work.
Awesome. All right. My new baby.
Well, you forgot about this, baby.
What baby?
Your camera.
I get it.